Coming
Welcome,
in.
everybody, to this week's webinar. I am joined by Sapna Pieroux, who is a brand strategist. So, today we are going to be talking all things brand and how, if you look credible, you're going to get big business. So, I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. Any questions, comments, anything like that, bob it in there, but I will hand over to Sapna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim, and hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Brilliant to see so many of you on here. For some of you who've got your camera off, if you could have your camera on, I'd really, really appreciate it because I'm a really visual person. Today's going to be quite a visual kind of presentation, and I like feeding off what I see in front of me as well. If you're having your lunch surreptitiously, that's fine. Keep your camera off if you feel more comfortable. But I do like seeing your friendly faces. So we're going to be going through quite a lot today, but just firstly, I just want to get read of the room. Quick show of hands, or just drop a yes in the chat if you're preferable, if you're not online. Who here is actively selling to bigger businesses? Is that like something that you want to be doing, selling to bigger businesses? Yeah, yeah. And some of them into corporate maybe even as well. Or is it just kind of, yeah, there's a few nods there. Excellent. So you're in the right place. And who here, again, show his hands or drop a yes if you're off camera, is excellent at what they do? I expect to see all the hands up, right? Very, very, yeah, a bit of wave there. And Jonathan's not putting his hands up. So are you rubbish at what you do, Jonathan?
Absolutely not. No, I nodded. I just,
Oh, right. Okay. That's very
there
subtle.
you
Good.
go.
Great. Thank you. So
Two
we're all
hands this
excellent
time.
at what we do. And isn't it annoying when somebody else gets the job instead of us? Because we know we could have delivered that. And one of the things that can be scuppering you right from the get-go is your brand. And I'll be going through why that's so important today. So today we're talking about closing the credibility gap. I'm talking about looking the business to win big business. And my name's Sapna Pieroux. Please do connect with me after the presentation. Um, you'll have heard this phrase here, never judge a book by its cover, but we do. We absolutely do. Let me ask you something. Have you ever judged a website? Think back. Have you ever judged your website? Like when you land there and you kind of go, they don't look very professional. Or you picked up somebody's business card and you think, oh, that's a bit shit. Or somebody's DM'd you on LinkedIn and you kind of look at their profile and you think, they're not for me. Now, that is all just judged on first impressions, right? First impressions matter. And people do judge books by its cover, by their covers, because that's why book jacket designers actually exist. It's a job. But we do this because we were like this since caveman days. Since we were cavemen, we've used sight as the way of navigating the world and seeing what's dangerous for us, or what's good for us. If we're looking out for dinosaurs, say, if that dinosaur is coming over the hill, you're not going to wait until you can smell it or like hear it. You're going to look at it from a distance and go, heck, I better run or I better hide because that looks dangerous. And we do the same now, in networking groups. There's not so many dinosaurs, but you'll go over to someone because they look nice, they look friendly, they look welcoming. And this is all judged on site. We automatically also we're tuned in to look for what's bad for us, so that your eye will have gone to that rotten apple there over any of the others, and we're tuned in. Again, this is about a safety thing. So when you're thinking, or when somebody is thinking of spending thousands of pounds with you, they're looking for danger signals. They're looking for something to sort of to switch their mind over why they shouldn't work with you rather than why they should. And we're always talking about why people should work with us, right? So it's about being visible. It's about having that right first impression. Why is that important? Because can anybody tell me in chat, and Kim, you'll have to keep an eye on this, what this landmark is? Anybody got it right, Kim?
Just give him a moment. Takes a moment. Any guesses? Emma's saying
Everest,
K2,
Andy wins
Everest.
a prize, which I haven't worked out what that prize is yet, but Andy will win a prize. It's Everest, yes. We scroll the height of Mount Everest every 20 days. I mean, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? That's how much we're scrolling. And that's an average, by the way. My mum doesn't spend her time on social media, so hers will be much lower. I think as entrepreneurs, we're probably 2x or 3xing that. And it's certainly increased since lockdown. What that means is it's harder and harder to get visible. It's harder to stand out. It's harder to grab someone's attention and convince them that you're the right choice for them. So we have to get visible. How do we get visible? Luckily, I wrote a book about that, but I'll tell you about that later. Why should you listen to me? I've spent 30 years building brands. So I spent the first 20 years in corporate. So I know how corporates think, how they behave, and crucially, how they buy. I haven't job topped as much as this would look like. It's the holding companies are at the top 2 rows there. And these are some of the brands that I represented and looked after. The clients that I've worked with were global, were national, so some really big brands here. Again, I was selling to these brands, so I know how they buy as well. For the last 10 years, I mean, kids came along and they changed everything, right? So, so I left corporate after I had kids, 2 children, and I set up my brand consultancy coming up to 10 years ago. It's 9 3/4 now. Very Harry Potter, as one of my friends said. We're Innovisions ID, and we help entrepreneurs stand out in their industry to supercharge their business growth. We build brands that mean business. This is my book, Let's Get Visible. And it's a free gift to you all. If you stay to the end, I'll show you how you can get a free copy of that for everyone. So that's a little bit about me and what I do now. I mean, but it wasn't always that way. And actually, when I started my business, I didn't want to get visible. I was actually remarkably shy, private person. Not shy, but private, definitely. Like most creatives, I wanted to stay behind the map rather than in front of it. And presenting. But when the book came out, I mean, I almost actually put a white man's name on the cover. I was that terrified of getting visible. So the irony was that the book ended up going to #1 in 4 different categories. It won a Business Book Award for Startup Inspiration. And that sort of catapulted me into, kind of speaking on stages, winning awards, doing brand collaborations, being featured in various posts, doing guest lecturing at various universities as well. So, and being featured on the BBC and Grazia magazine as well. So there's quite, it's been quite a ride, and all of that happened since the book came out in 2020. But back to you and back to your visibility. That was kind of me. That's the book. So we're talking, how do we get visible? What is the big problem? The big problem is that we are in what everybody calls a trust. You must have heard about a trust recession at the moment. There's been so many people making big claims. There's been a flood of businesses into the online digital space, and we don't know who to trust anymore. So I've got this framework here on how to build a trusted brand, and it does boil it down to very simple, but it's everything you do, everything you say, and everything you see. I call it my do, say, see model. The red bits there are the danger zones. If you're lacking one of the things, then you tip into the danger zones. So they're equally important, by the way. I'm not going to sit here saying that if you sort your brand out as a magic bullet, you've got to be building your brand in all the pillars. So when you the big mistake that most business owners make when you start any business is you'll focus on the do. You focus on what it is you're going to do, how you're going to sell it, what is it, the product or service, how you're going to make your difference to the world. Is it online? Is it offline? Is it one-to-one? Is it one-to-many? What equipment do you need? What staff do you need? Do you need premises? Do you need transport? All of that, and the nuts and bolts of how your business is going to operate, CRM systems, all of that. So that's the do. Then you focus on what you're going to say, because you need to communicate your value. You need to communicate your difference and your value to the world. And if we don't communicate, then we don't have a business, because nobody knows about us. So this is the written and the spoken word. It's your socials, it's the blurb on your website and your marketing collateral, it's your elevator pitch, it's you giving talks like this perhaps, or on a stage. So it could be a book. I am going to witter on about the book. I wrote a book, by the way, because it's a really good one. But this is it's all of that is the say, is again telling people what you do and how you're going to help them. And if you're not clear about that, by the way, you have what I call an incoherent brand, because people can't actually understand what you do or how you're going to help them. And the last bit that people tend to rush, by the time they've done the other 2 bits, they're like, right, let's just get a logo. Let's go on Fiverr, get a logo or Canva, and we'll just slap it on there, and that's our branding done. Now, it's not just about the brand. The C is about the first impression. So the first impression is you as you show up. It's your Zoom room, it's your website, it's your LinkedIn, it's every single touch point of your business, as well as your branding. So there's a lot going on there. And if you've ever gone onto a website that's maybe loaded up too slowly, or you've been given a business card that doesn't really look that great, it looks a bit dated, you start making judgments based just on the C. But this is what, do you remember about the dinosaurs and how people are looking for danger signs? How your clients are looking at your brand. You might have built it do, say, see in that order, but they're looking at it as see, say, do, because only if they like what they see, remember how much they're scrolling, the height of Mount Everest every 20 days, only if they like what they see will they stop. Only then will they find out what you have to say. And only then have they got a cat and house chance of finding out what you do and how you can help them. So C is far more important, and people are judging you. This is your corporate buyer. In fact, this is any buyer, right? When they're landing on your LinkedIn or your business, your website, or they're trying to make a decision, they're thinking, do they look professional, credible? Are they established? Can I trust them with this project? Are they a safe bet? Are they low risk, safe hands? Will they make me look good? Is my job safe? Am I going to score brownie points with the team, the boss? Do they demonstrate the quality of the work? Are they going to eat me alive? Maybe not the last one. But there's an awful lot of decisions that are coming with that scrolling, and the fact that we are being bombarded with 30,000 to 60,000 messages and decisions, micro decisions a day. We're in overload, right? So the point of your brand is to take away some of this worry and some of this pain so they can just actually work out if you're the best person. They can engage with what it is you've got to say, look at your proposal, or read a bit more about your products or services. So there are 3 immediate trust builders. Would anyone like to know what they are? Just 3. There are many, but I'm going to focus on 3 for today. And they are linked to brand. They are image, they are positioning, and they are consistency. So I'm going to show you some case studies where that has worked, and show you the before and afters, because we all love a makeover. And that's the power of brand. So the first one is image. This is actually the before, you'll be glad to know. Justin Woods came to me after he was recommended to me by his business coach. Some of you may know him, Robin Waite. And Robin said, you've got to work with Sapna. Justin had this business called Product 360. He'd started it 3 years previously. He hadn't really thought about the name too much at that point, but it got to the point where people were starting to mistake him for being like a Microsoft provider, and people weren't really clear about what he did. It was starting to become a barrier to him. He was spending too long explaining what his business was, and he needed something that also stood out in his industry. It looked really boring. It had no personality, and Justin's got bags of personality. He's a really likable guy. So he first booked a naming call with me, and we renamed his business to Roadmap Heroes, because he helps people with road mapping. I'm not even going to pretend I still know what that means. He's the expert in that, but apparently it's very important. And he wants to make his clients feel like roadmap heroes. He wanted to really empower them to take control of their own road mapping after he'd worked with them. I still don't know what roadmaps are. But we came up with this whole idea, and the word heroes sort of implied superheroes, and I love a superhero. So this was kind of the before and after on his brand. This was what we created for him, the logo and the strapline, saving the world from crappy roadmaps, one company at a time. People really connect with him over it. He stands out in his industry. It's really memorable. He came up with these little Lego figurines, which he sends to his clients, and they can customize them with a little token. And he actually sent me a little roadmap hero of my own, which I have got in my office. But how did it affect his business? I've got a longer testimonial from Justin, but the summary of this is having a powerful brand, he said, is priceless, not just for my clients, but for me as well. It empowers and encourages me to be bolder and more confident every day. Since the rebrand, he's gone from high 5 to 6 figures. He's working with Tesco, Anglo American, De Beers, and Delta Airways. It's really boosted his confidence. He said he found it amazing value for money because he spent one day. That, by the way, was the results of a one-day brand. I do a one-day brand product, which if you let me, I'll tell you about later. But he said this brand is working for me every day, 24/7. On every platform whilst I sleep, which is the power of brand. It has the ability to represent you when you're not in the room. And that works for Justin because he's working with, like, kind of global clients. It's there on every single touch point, and he absolutely loves his brand. He's even got branded t-shirts now, and he wears his orange, and he says when he's feeling a little bit flumpy about his business and feeling a bit lacking in energy, he puts on his orange t-shirt, and it just kind of really kind of gives him that boost as well. So it has that effect on him too. So it has an effect on your, not just on your clients, but on your own confidence, on your own energy levels when your brand is representing you, and giving the right image. One of the next ones is positioning. And this was another client of mine who did the one-day transformation. Her name is Marilyn Pinto. She's based in Dubai, and her business was called Kids Financial Initiative. Try saying that with your teeth out. Mine are in, actually. But she had this business, which her dream was to have a world where kids grow up without debt, and learning how to save money and invest money. And she said, wouldn't it be great if we could teach children to never get into debt? How different would their life outcomes be? So this is her big passion project. She's selling these courses. They're at $2,000 to $3,000 US dollars in Dubai. So arguably, it was a lot of the richer families that were buying these courses for their kids, and not the poorer kids that she really wanted to help. So she wanted to get sponsorship from the big banks, but she felt that this brand was holding her back. The other thing was that she'd started the business when her kids were little. And as her kids grew up, so did her target market. And she started to deal with teenagers and kids going to university and higher education, and they didn't vibe with this brand either. It was just not, it looked too childish and childlike. So she spent a day with me, and we renamed the business, by the way. She wanted to get rid of the word kids, but she wanted to keep the yellow, and the golds were very kind of Dubai and sort of representing money, and she wanted to keep the dollar sign somewhere in there as well. But she also wanted it to feel like an educational establishment. She wanted to create a brand that the kids would feel proud to wear on merch, so it feels like they're part of a tribe, and this feeling of belonging. So we ended up working on the brand strategy and came up with this as the result. So Kids Financial Initiative grew up, and it turned into KFI Global. Now we've got something that kind of talks about, she wanted it to feel a bit Harvard-y and a bit like an education establishment, a bit of a badge that the kids would be proud to wear on a baseball hat or on a jumper, and feel like part of a tribe, and also something that she felt proud to present to the banks as well, that looked official and grown up. And we created this idea of tribe with generation wealth. So the positioning had to work for parents, for students, and for banks as well. And the generation wealth, she was like, is there such a thing, Sapna? I said, no, we're going to make it a thing. You are creating generation wealth. And she talks about her clients being smarter, richer, braver. So that was another part of the strap line. Suddenly she felt, kind of confident to go to those banks. So she went from this as her website. Again, the imagery was very young. The logo was very young. The typography as well. Look at things like imagery, typography, color for, to grow up your brand and make it look more sophisticated. These things here, like this typeface looks something a bit like Comic Sans, very not sophisticated at all. So we went from there to there. And as you can see now, a lot more sophisticated, a lot more grown up. And you can see the amount of awards she's won since she's worked with me. In fact, and this is some of the other sort of assets that we produce for her on the One Day brand, and ideas of how that brand could be used. She actually sent me a lovely message the other day, and she said, I think about you all the time because this brand makes me feel so confident every day. When KFI was nominated as a finalist for these awards, my first thought was our brand looked the best. Never mind that the rest are industry giants with multi-billion pound turnovers. Dollars, sorry. And I owe it to you, winning a very, very long shot, but we look good up there. Actually, she ended up winning. So she was very, very happy with that. And I asked her, did she hit post six figures post rebrand? And she said she absolutely did. She ended up getting sponsorship from the banks that she pitched to, and she's ended up taking her program into a lot of the poorer schools and to the poorer children who actually need that. So she's making a bigger impact with that rebrand as well. I'm really proud of her. And this is the third trust pillar. So we've got image, positioning, and consistency. By the way, all of these apply to every single brand, but I'm just honing in on each of these for each of the case studies, and one of these for each of the case studies. Consistency. Now, this is a case study that I've used a lot because she's like the most perfect one, Antoinette. But consistency is so important because 77% of B2B marketers say brand consistency is critical to business growth. Why is that? If you're flipping and flopping and changing up your colors and changing up your fonts and it actually doesn't feel like a brand that's certain and solid and grounded. And it feels a bit schizophrenic, which is the word that I used when I met Antoinette, not immediately, but after she asked me to look at her brand. So Antoinette came to me actually looking for some a brochure. And so I said to her, have you got a logo? Have you got brand guidelines? Have you got any other collateral that I could use to kind of guide where I'm going to go? And this is what she showed me. Can anyone pop in comments what they see here? What is wrong with this picture? Don't be shy. Or shout out, unmute yourself.
I can see a lot of
Lots going
color.
on. Sorry?
There's a lot of color.
There's a lot of color. She liked her dual tones, is one of the briefs that she gave to her designer.
Yeah, we've got mixture of different styles, fonts, too many fonts, a lot of color, too many colors.
Yeah.
Too many colors over and above the four
It's confusing.
Pantones.
It's confusing, right? So she's got her Pantones on the left, she's got her spec, but like no designer, not her web developer, not the people that did her training packs, nor her book designer seem to actually listen to or follow the brand guidelines. And so and there was so many typefaces going on here. It just looked like a bit of a mess. Also, her book was coming out. So her profile was about to rise. She was targeting working in the IT industry, hence the title Grow Your Geeks. And nothing about her brand really appealed to the IT industry, which was mainly, kind of masculine dominated, certainly at that time. And her logo was really scripty and a bit girly. It was meant to look like a signature. The colors looked a bit cheap and a bit too feminine. And talent development was just too vague. I mean, I sort of said, well, what does that mean? You could be like Simon Cowell. But the whole brand looked a little bit schizophrenic. So, and at the time, Antoinette said to me, look, I haven't got the bandwidth or the budget to do a whole rebrand right now. But she said, I get your point. She said, can we maybe just look at the logo first? So we did this as a staged project. It wasn't over one day, certainly it was over several months. But she said, I need the logo to stay the same shape because I need to just drop it into my website and into my PowerPoints and maybe change some colors, but I can't go beyond that at the moment. I haven't got the bandwidth. So that's what we did. We started with the logo. And you can see the before and after here. So we were bound by the shape. The shape had to stay the same. But what a significant change. So we've changed the typeface to look a lot more sleek and professional. We've got rid of that horrible AO in the middle. And she said she needed an AO roundel because her name is so long and wonderfully symmetrical for this logo. But her name is so long that people do call her AO, and she wanted an AO symbol that she could use. So we made that more meaningful. This now resembles a person standing at the foot of a mountain ready to scale. And talent development has given way for something much more directional, which is develop leaders, deliver strategy, drive results. So it's much clearer what she does and who for. Once Antoinette saw her logo, she said, I can't bear to look at my business cards anymore. So the rest of the rollout happened fairly quickly after that. And very soon, I pretty much redesigned everything in her business. How does that one make you feel? Anyone can unmute themselves. Anyone?
Definitely like more relaxing, I guess, to look at. Don't feel as in your face as the previous one.
Yeah, just more relaxed is quite nice. Yeah, I mean, it's like this one here felt a bit chaotic. And this one here, just, we've kind of pulled some of those colors out. The cyan and the pink have gone. We've kept the purple and the gray for a bit of continuity. We had to keep the green. We had to put that bright green in because her book had tested on social media already with that color and she couldn't change the color. But we put that in, and then I tempered it down with a softer green or a deeper green. And that sort of, those greens sort of talk about growing and growth. And the blue was obviously for her slightly more male sort of target client there. And we even used some of the brand photography that she had done. These are actually stock images, but we treated them in the same way as her brand photography at the time. So it all kind of blended in together as well. And so we did that with say this. She actually had this very distinctive dress on, which she'd worn for the shoot, and then it just popped everywhere. So we actually dialed that down so it looked less distinctive, and she could continue to use her old brand shoot. But she said the rebrand enhanced my credibility and that my company had grown up and I was playing at a higher level. My brand is now aligned with who I am and what I'm saying. It brings a sophistication and maturity and additional professionalism to everything. First impressions are stronger. Clients compliment me on it. And I know I've won business because of it. I know I have as well. And being offered more significant opportunities as a result. And crucially, it's easier to be confident selling a high value package when it looks the part too. Fun fact, Antoinette put her prices up after the rebrand. She put the price of her main package, her core package, up by 62%. And nothing else had changed about it, but she felt confident to go and pitch it to bigger companies, and she got 62%. So she made her ROI back really very quickly. Has anyone got any questions at this stage before I move on?
Haven't got any questions yet in the chat. So while people are thinking, just a couple of comments on Antoinette's branding: way more consistent and professional, clearer, easier to understand. And Hannah's is way more mature and structured. And I love that it is giving more mature vibes.
Yeah, which actually, when you're selling to corporate, that's what you need to be doing, right? You need to be taking away, you're de-risking. Basically, what your brand is showing is that you're a safe pair of hands, that you are pulled together. And Antoinette actually won a job from in Italy from her direct competitor in Italy, and this other woman was Italian. And when she asked, she got some feedback from the client, and they said that they'd chosen her over her Italian competitor because her training materials and her brand, her marketing collateral looked well designed, well put together, modern, and clear. And they inferred from that her training was going to be the same, well designed, modern, and clear. So if your brand is looking dated, if your brand is looking confusing, if your brand is looking badly designed, or any less than professional, it can infer that there are other parts of your company that are also like that too. Or as a wise man once said to me, if your brand looks a bit rubbish, people might assume the rest of your business is as well. People are making these flash decisions. Remember the dinosaurs, remember the cavemen. It's hardwired into us to judge a book by its cover. So that's the impression. That's the thing that worked for Antoinette. All the ones that I've showed you here are people that are selling into corporate, are selling into bigger businesses. But what if you're even selling into B2B? This works for B2B or B2C, by the way. This works for any sector because we're all human beings and we all judge by sight. So just to throw another one in here, this system and this methodology works for any high ticket offering. This here was another client of Robin Waite's, a guy called Chris Smith. And his company was called Reno Sash. And as you might be able to guess, they renovate sash windows. They don't do new windows. They don't put new wooden windows in, and they don't do UPVC windows. This is very important because their strapline on their awful website, it looks like it was built in the 90s, said the sash window specialist. So they were getting the wrong phone calls. Can you put in UPVC windows? So this is all about, this is where we're going to be pulling together image, positioning, and clarity, consistency. This was just a mess. He got a new van. He was scaling his business. There was two of them, and he was getting a new van and scaling up to 6 professionals working on his team. He was trying to make it look good on the van, and it looked rubbish. So then he went into the Facebook group and he was asking other people to come up with ideas, which is what happened here. And this especially delightful one here is where someone's put a sash window in as the letter H. I don't recommend that. On top of that, his website looked super dated. And when we had a conversation about it, there was too much going on. There was too many images. They'd been taken by himself. outside a neighbor, outside his client's house. They weren't professional shoots. And I said to him, look, this is just like your client never sees it this way anyway. They'll be looking from inside out, but also it doesn't look like you're showing off your work. It looks like you're casing the joint. It's not a great way of showing off your work. And I said, this grey isn't serving you. It looks so dated. And he said, oh God, I wish I'd spoken to you before I bought my van because it's grey. And I went, no, we can make that work. Again, like Antoinette's book with the green book, we retro engineer stuff back in to make it work. But the logo was bloody awful. And he said that that was something that him and his wife had actually created and given to a designer to polish. At which point we'd already built a rapport by now, and I'd sort of said, but Chris, you can't polish a turd. It was a bad logo to start with. So we did a lot of deep work on the psychology of the buyer, and this is really, really important to do as well, and really understand who it is. And we recognize that these people are living in period houses. They only do sash windows. They only renovate original sash windows. They appreciate craftsmanship and attention to detail. Oh, the other thing that he said was he was losing business, by the way, to his better looking competitor. Anybody had that happen to them? He was losing business to his better looking competitor, who had a nicer looking website, but they were national advertiser. And he knew they did a better job and they had better materials. So part of his brief was, I want to look better than them. So he booked the one day brand with me, and this is what we did for Chris. Quite a difference. Anyone? How do people feel about the before and after there? Anyone come off mute?
Almost feels more like trustworthy. I don't know. It sort of made me feel like I trust it a lot more because it feels more professional.
Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. It looks like a completely different company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody you'd trust straight away. I know that's the point, but it does. It's a completely different vibe from it.
Yeah, thank you. And here, he got the grey van, and so I said, well, we still can use grey, Chris, but we just take it in little bits here, here, and here. These colours would directly drop, I dropped from this image. So his grey van looks on brand. The logo, we use a much more refined font. We identified that the clients valued craftsmanship and valued tradition. So it was much more traditional looking, elegant font. We added a little bit of craftsmanship. We even made the H a tiny bit higher just to reflect the lofty ceilings in these period properties. The new strapline is no longer the sash window specialist, but superior sash window renovations, a sly dig at his national competitor, but actually saying what they do on the tin. And what happened after that is that Chris got approached within 2 months by Cheltenham College. So he went from doing one-to-one sales to Cheltenham College, which was a big to business company. They approached him after seeing the branding on the side of his van. So complete game changer for him. We actually added this warm gold as well, just to warm it up as well. I called it an old gold. This is, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I got the longest testimonial ever from Chris. He was so blown away by what we managed to achieve in that day. And I'll just pull out a little bit there. That's Chris with having a bathroom selfie, looking very proud of himself with the Renaissance logo on his chest. And he said it's so nice that he didn't have to hide his old. They used to wear hoodies over the top because he was so embarrassed of his old logo. But he said, my immediate reaction on first sight was empowering. I felt my shoulders and chest lift with pride. Importantly, the new brand is not only powerful for attracting our ideal customers, it's powerful for our company culture. It gives us something to be proud of. It sets the benchmark, showing our team the standard that we need to live up to. The average sale that Chris used to have before was 10 to 12K. And when I spoke to him sometime last year, he said he just closed a 120K deal. He went from doing just one-to-one houses, which he still does, but working with Cheltenham College and a national jewellery chain. He went from 2 to 6 employees, and he hit multi-six figures after the rebrand. So this stuff works, whichever aspect of business you've got. So that's kind of the presentation for now. Is it okay to show you some ways that you might be able to work with me and show you a little bit of an offer? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And then we've got some time for questions and discussion and anything that you want to ask me as well. So there's key ways to work with me. I've spent 30 years in brand, so it is quite a wide kind of remit. But very loosely speaking, at the entry level, obviously you can buy my book, but I only make £1 from Amazon anyway, if you did. So I'm going to give it you for free. But there's power hours. I name businesses, and there's a no name, no fee guarantee. But I can name a business in under 2 hours. It's one of the reasons that my clients call me Super Saps, is I do very hard things very quickly. Probably undiagnosed ADHD or something. Brand strategy. So some people don't necessarily want the design yet, but they need to get clear on which way their brand is going, and we do that as well. The brand accelerator is the 1-day brand thing that I talked about, and that is strategy plus design, right the way through to brand guidelines. And if anybody's interested in that, certainly we can have a separate conversation about that. And personal brand coaching as well. Just to give you an idea of kind of price points, this is like just a quick of where we're at right now. But the Brand Accelerator does give you 3 months of support as well as you're rolling your brand out. The floor is open to all sorts of questions. Come off mute and join in and chat with me, please.
All right. Just while you're thinking of questions, just point out that this has been a webinar for L&D Free Spirits, which is a community for freelancers who work in people development or learning and development. I'm going to drop a few links in the chat just so you can find out more about our community, connect with us on the socials, and take our freelance readiness scorecard, which is completely free, no email needed, and it gives you a good idea of where you are in the are you ready to freelance. But it's also a good check for if you've been doing it for a while as well. Okay.
Thank you. We've got a question from Emma. Yes.
Hello. Hi, Sapna. We've met at Samantha Harmon's event. So
we did. Hi. Thank you for coming.
I'm not looking quite as glamorous as you today because I'm trying to not melt.
I know. I couldn't do a boob tube while doing this because I thought I'm going to look naked on the recording, so I'll not do that.
I suspect I know what the answer is, but at the moment I have 2 separate brands. One is for my coaching practice, and one is for my corporate facing menopause education training stuff. And I'm going backwards and forwards about whether I should try and combine everything under one brand to simplify my life and also to kind of avoid confusing potential clients. So I just wondered if you had any advice.
So what's the other business then? So you've got menopause coaching, which you deliver to corporates?
So, well, coaching, which isn't necessarily specifically around menopause. So one-to-one kind of leadership and career coaching. And then the menopause, but I do also coach people who are going through menopause.
Okay.
And then managing the menopause is corporate facing, so it might be coaching, it might be training, lunch and learn, training line managers, we do Ask the GP sessions, all of that kind of thing. So I've kind of held them separate, but they're a bit of a Venn diagram of a bit of a...
Yeah. So how are you managing it at the moment? Have you got separate profiles, or what are you doing right now?
I've got separate websites, email addresses, and then everything kind of sits on my personal LinkedIn profile. Although one of them does have a LinkedIn corporate page.
Okay. It feels, yes, I would say you do need to bring them together, because it needs to, you're probably also leaking money, because there might be some people who work with this side of your business who may be not aware of the other side of your business, and vice versa. So that there may be more cross-pollination, but also clarity of, and it's also, if we were to work together, it's like, well, what do you want to be known for? What's that legacy piece? When people are talking about you and you're not in the room, how are they going to be pitching you? And, you know, like, how do you want to be known? And that's the thing that you go for. And is it that you want to specialize in menopause across that and other coaching, or is it career coaching with a specialism, you know, with menopause as one of the things? Is it that you're coaching women in general with their careers? Do you work with men? I don't know. I don't know at the moment on your other side of the business. So it's kind of like, and targeting it and putting your message out to a certain demographic doesn't mean that other demographics won't work with you. It doesn't mean that, but it will mean that your message will be clearer for the people that you really do want to work with. So that would be my advice. Does that help? Yes, I think that's one of those things that I've sort of know in the back of my mind, but have been procrastinating about. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I think it will clear your head as well. And it was just much easier to manage one email account and one LinkedIn profile and one page. And I would suggest you do have a page. If you're trying to sell to corporates, do have a company page as well. And occasionally share stuff on there, but mainly from your personal account. Any other questions? Thank you. That's a great question.
I have just on the back of that, Emma, I've got a webinar all about your LinkedIn profile and everything and optimizing that. So I'm going to drop that into the chat as soon as I find it. One moment.
Thank you. Have I honestly explained everything about brand and nobody's got any questions whatsoever? I must have done a really good job.
Seems that way.
Oh, have I just blown your mind and I've just shown you so much stuff that you're like still processing?
I think from my perspective, it's always nice to see the before and afters. So, because we can all be like, oh yes, this is amazing. This is how it looks now. But it's like, yeah, but where's the change? What did it look like before? And I think that the sash window one for definite was the biggest impact for me for how it was before versus the after they'd worked with you.
Yeah,
but I do secretly quite like the sash as the H on the van.
You did like it?
Yeah, I quite like that.
I never kind of recommend using an object as a letter because it doesn't aid with readability. It can be a little bit tacky. I mean, if anybody wants to throw up their LinkedIn profile and is brave enough, I'm happy to take a look at it. And you can have a live.
There's your challenge.
Simon's done that before, haven't you, Simon? Yeah, and we did a LinkedIn Live where I looked at Simon's LinkedIn profile and gave him a critique on that and how he could improve it, which he went off and did.
We've got a question from Emma. What are the top things that companies are looking for? You mentioned colours, fonts, but what do they typically look for? Is there, I think we're looking for, is there a golden nugget?
They are not looking at colours and fonts. Those are the details that give the overall impression. So no corporate buyer is looking at your colours and fonts consciously. It's a subconscious thing. So if you're going to put something in, Comic Sans, it's not going to look as professional. You think about that, the difference in the typeface for Renault Sash, and there was like, it was like night and day if you look at the different. So it's about showing an appreciation of, it's about looking well designed and professionally put together. Because if your marketing collateral, if your website and your profile are well designed and professionally look professional, then that implies that you have invested in yourself and your business, that you take yourself seriously, and that they should take you seriously, right? It's like turning up to an interview with wearing holy jeans and a skimpy vest top and chewing gum. It's not giving the right impression. So if you bother with looking well turned out, and it's showing up, it's that first impression, and it's really hard to change first impressions. And remember how much we're scrolling and how many micro decisions we're making every day, 30 to 60,000 little tiny decisions that we're making every day. We're in overwhelm. So anything you can do to take away, to de-risk choosing you and to put yourself as a sure choice and a safe pair of hands, that's what your brand can do. Like people said about Renault Sash, you just instantly felt you trusted them more, that they weren't going to mess up your house, that they were good craftsmen, that they took attention to detail, that they were professionals, that they had attention to detail, and that they really understood craftsmanship. Those things came across, and there was not a word said there. It was just the impression that you got, right? And I heard a few sighs when I showed that before and after. So that's the effect that you want your brand. It's not about, I sometimes get people saying to me, should I be using this blue? Or, and it's like, it's not as simple as that. When people work with me, we work with the strategy first. And so I've got this vision process that I talk about in my book. And that's why I've got the vision chart there. That was actually my dad's. He was an eye surgeon. So it's quite weird that he helped people to see and I helped people get visible. So it's kind of quite a nice, I thought I was rebelling, but going to art college, he wanted me to be an optician. So that's a little nod to the job I should have had. But the vision process is 6 parts, and it's the first half of it is all strategy. So before we start choosing colours and fonts, we need to get really clear on what's your big business goal. an ambition. Like, what do you want? What's your 3 to 5 year vision when I'm working with you? Because it's like, we don't build the brand for today, we build the brand for then. That means your brand will last you for at least 5 or 6 years. By the time you get there, you've grown into it and it fits quite nicely. So my clients are still using the same brand. Robin Waite, who some of you guys know, is still using his brand from 8 years ago, and it still looks fresh, because I don't tend to go with trends. I'll go with what's right for the business and the business vision. And then we look at the customer vision as well. How are they going to see? So with Renault Sash, even the images, your customer's not seeing from outside looking up for the window. What we did was we showed an interiors image, because that's how they're going to experience their window. So it's about showing that you see things from your customer's point of view as well. And so we look at what the customer psyche is, and we dig quite deep into that. Then we look at things like brand values, brand personality, brand tone of voice. That's in the I for inner brand. And then S for standout is, what do other people look like in your industry? Because let's do something different. That's the big mistake that a lot of people make. A lot of entrepreneurs will, when they're creating their brands, they will look at the market leaders. And I get clients coming to me with images of like the market leaders and go, well, I want something that looks a bit like that, because they're the market leaders and I want to look like a market leader. And I was like, well, you're not actually showing what's different about you. You're just trying to be, it's almost like having a cheap knockoff handbag, right? You're not, it's actually about finding out what's unique about your business that's going to speak to your people. So that's what we do in Standout. So all of this is kind of strategic stuff before we start designing. And then I for image is where we start designing, where we'll look at things like typefaces, colors, and imagery. So those are the 3 aspects of your brand. And imagery can be everything from photography to illustration to graphics, and shapes and textures. And so it's not just about photography, but photography is a really important one actually in building trust. Because who here doesn't have their picture on their website, of a photo of themselves on their website when people land? Is there anybody there that hasn't got that? Because that's a big trust thing when people are landing on your website, to be able to see who they're doing. It's like, I always say it's like greeting someone when they come to your house, right? You sort of at the door and going, hi, welcome. It's quite nice to see a face when you land on the page. So photography, imagery and stuff like that. So we look at that as well. And then we look at putting together the brand guidelines, because as we've learnt, consistency is really important. So one of the big mistakes I see with founders, and especially people, a lot of founders tend to have ADHD, and you're looking at your brand 24/7, not 24/7, obviously you sleep, but you get bored of it and you're like, oh God, if I have to use these colors again or these fonts. So you switch it up and you put something else in, suddenly it's got arms and legs and it looks like Antoinette's before, where there's just too much going on. And then you're not recognizable. When people go on LinkedIn and then go on your website, if they look completely different, they're not making the visual link before, where everywhere you show up should have a consistency. And that's where your colors and your typeface come in. But that's where it builds, this feeling of like, what you're doing, that you are, you're not flipping and flapping and kind of just changing things on a whim. That's a very long answer to a very short question, but it's a real passion kind of area of mine. Consistency is king. Yeah. Anything else?
Sohail put a comment in the chat as well about, there's a whole psychology around the colours that you choose, and the emotions that they evoke and everything like that. Like, I chose green for Free Spirits because it was very nurturing, that kind of thing. But for my consultancy, it's go ginger, oranges, reds, that kind of, because it's a different kind of energy. So CC has put in there, is there an alternative to LinkedIn that you're able to suggest? Now, I'd probably say with that, it depends where your clients are.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So it's what you're trying to build and where your clients are. If it's more lifestyle and B2C, or direct to consumer, then Instagram may be better for you, or a Facebook group. I personally tend to spend most of my time on LinkedIn because my sales are B2B. So I sell to founders or work with founders and entrepreneurs who want to sell to bigger businesses. So that's for me. But CC is very, very new into business, I know, because we met in a networking group just an hour ago. So that's what is it you do, Cece? Can you just tell everyone else?
Yes, so I work with I'm psychology led, trauma informed, RTT, rapid transformational therapy and hypnotherapy. That's what I specialize in.
Mhm.
So I guide high professional women predominantly, who are looking to break free from people pleasing, self sabotage, survival patterns, to break free and to reclaim their power, find themselves. I'm the bridge, the gap.
Yeah.
I bridge that gap between between recognition and transformation.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
So the
So
keyword that you said there was professional. And so
okay.
I would say that LinkedIn is probably the right place for you to be if you're wanting to connect with professional women. And obviously everyone in there is a professional. So can we niche that down to women in corporate, or is it female entrepreneurs? Or, if you can make it more specific,
Yeah.
it's easier to connect with the right people than just kind of going all women, but you can if you want to, and see what comes. I mean, I think sometimes people try and niche a little bit. You're very, very early in your business, and
Yeah.
sometimes people try and niche a little bit too early in their business. And actually, let's just make it a bit more general, and then see what happens. And you can always refine your message as the business grows. Because I didn't start off saying that I help people sell into corporate. I was like, I help entrepreneurs. And then you kind of go, oh, actually, this is actually where where I really shine.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And just got Sohail's put a question in. What if you don't look like a model? I mean, my face is plastered all over the Free Spirits website, and most of those images I had a brand shoot, but I've tweaked them to get different faces and everything using GPT and all that. So for me, I look at them and I can spot all of my flaws, but we are our own worst critics with our images. So
we are.
Yeah.
I think, and this is what, when I work with what tends to be women on their personal brand, is that they're a bit scared of getting visible, and they're not sure how to show up, and they feel, we get raised like nobody likes to show off, and sort of going online and talking about ourselves and appearing on video. We kind of, I hate seeing myself on video as well, by the way, Sohail. So yeah, I mean, there's not many, so no offense to everyone, but we're not a room full of models. We're just normal human beings, right? We're normal human beings. And actually people want to see the face of the person that they're dealing with. Again, it's a huge trust builder to see, Simon does a great thing every morning where he do connect with each other, by the way, but he comes on and he does a little Monday monologue, and you get to hear him speaking, and you get to sort of, get to know him as a person as well. So I think video is a great, I'm really rubbish at video. I should take a leaf out of Simon's book. But do follow him and see how he shows up. And you also do a bit of modeling on the side, don't you, Simon? There you go. You don't have to be a model. You don't have to be a model. People want to connect with a human being.
So just to answer Emma's question, so Claude can't do images, so either use GPT or Nano Banana. That's what I use. So I'll put in a couple of my images, and I'll be like, okay, now put me in a bee outfit. Or today I was like, put me next to a pool with a pina colada for next month's events.
I think we can have a lot of fun with ChatGPT. I would still try and say use the real you and some selfies and things like that, because people know when those images have been messed with, and it's fine to do it for a bit of fun, and everybody's doing it. But to try and represent that as actually you, I mean, I think certainly for things like your profile picture, that should just be a proper picture of you, not a GPT'd one, because you want to turn up looking as authentic as you when you show up. But having a bit of fun with it is fine, putting yourself in silly outfits and stuff to prove a point. But
yeah, I think the main thing is, like the final note is just be authentic with everything, isn't it? To create an authentic brand that's going to speak to people and be authentic in the way that you're presenting yourself.
Yes, but if you want to be seen as a professional and capable and credible, that's where you need to get your brand looking professional, credible, And that's where that's the mismatch sometimes that happens. But that is being authentic. Having a brand that is as brilliant as you are is you showing up as your authentic self. So hopefully that's been helpful. I'd love you to connect with me. Did you pop my LinkedIn in the chat?
I've done it, but I'm gonna pop it in again. So thank you all so much for joining us today.